Hello everybody, I'm Giulia Bovone from the Italian Academy of History of Pharmacy, and this video is an extended version of the speech that I gave in occasion of the 44th International Congress for the History of Pharmacy that took place in Washington DC from the 5th to the 8th of September 2019. Why an extended version, you probably ask? Well, mostly because at those congresses, researchers can only speak for a limited amount of time. And because of that, in the end, I had to cut off a part of my speech. But because there is a lot of things to say about Bioplastina, and I really wanted to find a way to make them available for other scholars, or simply people that are curious about history of Italian pharmacy, I thought that probably a video would have been the best format for my message. Okay, I really hope you are still with me now. I promise history of Italian pharmacy is kinda cool, so stay with me as we go deep into what was Bioplastina Serono. The idea behind Bioplastina came from a study made by Dr. C.Serono of Turin, and this study was published in 1897 on the Medical Reform, an Italian medical journal very common and well known between the last decade of the 19th century to the first years of the 20th century. This medical journal was directed by Professor Bottolo and printed in Naples. In his research, C.Serono displayed the miraculous effect of lecithin injection in cases of malnutrition, both in children and adults. And on the left side of the slide, you can see the photo of the journal. And as a note, when I was doing my research, I was really lucky because I managed to acquire for my collection a copy of this very own study. But this copy, it's not an ordinary one. Why? Because the journal that is in my archive that you can see in the photo belonged to Professor Pietro Grocco. Professor Grocco was the physician of the lyric singers and composers like Puccini, Leoncavallo, and was a really close friend with Giuseppe Verdi. Actually, they played cards together when Verdi was on holiday in Montecatini Terme. And another interesting thing to know is the fact that if you go to Montecatini these days, there is a street named after Pietro Grocco, and this street is really near Boulevard Verdi. Frankly, I do not know if it's wanted or not, but sure, it's a really nice gesture to celebrate the friendship between Verdi and Grocco. In the upper right part of the book, there is a few handwritten lines. Those lines can be translated to the attention of Professor Pietro Grocco. I had the handwriting examined, but at that time there were not enough clues to link the writings to C.Serono himself. So unfortunately, it's still a mystery, and that is going to need a lot of time to solve. Don't worry, I'll keep you updated, but it really would be nice to have a study with actual C.Serono handwritings on it. Returning to Bioplastina, well, what was Bioplastina as a medicine? It was an Opotherapic drug made by lecithin extracted from egg yolk instead of rabbit brain. Rabbit brain was really much more common at the time, but was really expensive compared to eggs. So one of the bigger problem that C.Serono had to face while developing Bioplastina was to get a very cheap way to extract lecithin. Each vial of Bioplastina contained 0.1 grams of the product on 1 milliliter of volume. It was very pure because it didn't contain choline, fats, globulin, and other egg proteins. As a matter of purity, we were around 98-99%. And another cool things that I found, it's the name of the product. Bioplastina actually came from an Italian adjective that is bioplastico, and can roughly be translated with it stimulates growth. And Bioplastina really was effective, because from the first injection, reading the study, the C.Serono study, from the first injection you can see that the patient began to gain weight, at least 2 kilos in 10 days, the red blood cell number increased, the nitrogen in urine decreased, and overall all the patients in the study improved. The drug began marketed shortly after. It was a great commercial success that led C.Serono to move his enterprise from Turin to Rome in 1906. And a thing that I didn't have time in Washington, but I really want you to know, is the fact that Bioplastina was also peer-reviewed in 1908 and 1909 by Dr. Quarelli of the Regia University of Turin, Professor Galdino Errani of University of Bologna, and Professor Vincenzo Britti of the University of Camerino. But one of the most interesting studies about Bioplastina was made about the use of the product in the treatment of pellagra. The best year for Bioplastina was 1911. In that year, the Serono Institute managed to sold 2 million vials of the product. And if you want to have a number to make a comparison, that year the Italian population was around 36 millions. Bioplastina was a really great commercial success, but with such a success, other industrial and pharmaceutical companies decided to had their share of the market. And because at that time in Italy there was very different legislation about copyright on medicine, others began to blatantly copy Bioplastina. In fact, you had a lot of lecithin injection to choose in the 20s and 30s of the 19th century. In fact, at those times, you could have a range variety of copies of Bioplastina that you could actually purchase. I mean, some of them are really the same as Bioplastina. Others had a slightly improvement or simply additions, like panovoidina. Panovoidina was lecithin and methylarsenate. It was considered a stronger tonic, but you could also purchase the Vifosfina from the laboratories Boniscontro and Gazzone in Torino. Or also you could have Trophobiocetina from the Zari laboratories in Bologna. But the award for the man that didn't even try to sound original goes to Bioplastol Agnoli. But even if the market was this fierce, Bioplastina managed to hold its ground because, first and foremost, was a product of quality. So, first of all, the new location allowed the construction of a facility for eggs production. So, the Serono Institute wasn't anymore dependent on shady people and their shady eggs. And a second important thing is that Bioplastina had a dedicated production line, not mixed with other drugs, to maintain the product free from contamination. And Bioplastina vials underwent purity and stability testing. Nothing fancy, mostly gravitometry, but for a product that actually was marketed 100 years ago, it was a lot. On the left side of the slide, you can see a little book. It's titled Nostri Medicamenti, Our Products. And this book was published in 1939 by Institute Serono. And in it there are some cool photos of the Bioplastina production line. In fact, as you can see, there was a preparation room for Bioplastina, a preparation room for the physiological buffer, a distillation room for the product. And the thing that I really want you to see is the cleanliness and the modernity of those rooms. I don't know if you can see well, but because in reality, those photos are really, really small. I mean, they are 4 centimeters for at least 3 centimeters and a half. But I really want you to note that the surfaces of the table have marble on it, so they were more durable and easy to clean. The workers are wearing lab coats and hats, and there were no drawers or other storage compartment under the tables, so the room didn't collect too much dust. Moving from the production line, we had a filling room in which the glass vials were filled, and to keep them microbiologically safe, they were pasteurized and then put in tin boxes to be sold in Italy or shipped worldwide. And there we have them, the Bioplastina tins. The upper model is the oldest and was used from the first years of the 20th century to the second decades, while the lower one was used from the 30s to the 40s. Another interesting thing about Bioplastina's quality is that the product actually had a way to check if the vials were good or not before injecting them into the patient. Each box contained a few strips of litmus paper, so the physician could drop a little quantity of the product on it, and if the paper turned red, the vial was contaminated and had to be discarded. Also, the C.Serono Institute had a very modern customer service. If a physician bought a tin of Bioplastina and the vials were broken, he could send them back to C.Serono laboratories and get a new one. And last but not least, the tins are a great collectible, because for each country in which Bioplastina was sold, the Institute C.Serono had a different color pattern for the box. Red for France, yellow for Spain, grey for UK and USA, and green for Portugal. So, even if Bioplastina was such an economic success, unfortunately, all good things came to an end. There were a lot of reasons why Bioplastina was took off the market, but the most important could be reduced to 3. First, in 1943, C.Serono Institute was bombarded during World War II and took time to restore Bioplastina production. After the war, Italy experienced an economic boom with the improvement of citizen diets, so malnutrition was no more an issue. And then vitamins became the new trend. In fact, in those years, C.Serono Institute decided to scrap Bioplastina production and to put on the market Coleothene di Serono, Forte and Extra Forte, so strong and extra strong. And Coleothene was simply vitaminic injection enriched with vitamin D and other lipophilic vitamins. So, Bioplastina then became a relic of a long past, no longer needed in a richer Italy. But as a biologist, I have a very strange view of those pharmaceutical products. I usually treated them like dinosaurs. So, are they completely extinct? Did they adapt and evolve? Are some of them still with us? And most important, can they be still relevant? Can Bioplastina still be useful nowadays? In fact, when I think of Bioplastina, actually, I think of a product that had some nice characteristics. First of all, was chipped products, because chicken eggs virtually can be found everywhere. Was effective in cases of malnutrition. It had a long shelf life, because when it was invented there was no refrigerators and the shipping condition of drugs were very, very different from the modern standards. And another thing that could make Bioplastina really relevant today is the fact that not just people that suffer from malnutrition, but even cancer patients could benefit from it. In 2017, the Italian Ministry of Health sponsored a lot of studies about cachexia. And during those studies, it was discovered that from the 25% to the 30% of people that die from cancer actually died because of cachexia-correlated diseases, or because they became too weak to underwent another chemotherapy cycle. So, if there could be the possibility of a treatment that can help people gain weight without passing through the stomach to get them stronger to fight cancer, maybe those tonics that were used in the past against malnutrition maybe are what pharmaceutical study nowadays. So, Bioplastina could be still here with us. I frankly do not know. It's not my job. Unfortunately, I'm not sponsored by a university to actually do that, but it's a nice question, and if you had your point of view, I really want to hear it on the comments. So, thank you for bearing me and my speech, and frankly, if you managed to get to the end of the video, I really applaud you for your kindness and patience and so on. Unfortunately, English it's not my mother language, so to me it's really a struggle to speak in English, but I really hope it's understandable. I do recognize that probably there are going to be some grammatical errors, so please be kind. I do apologize in advance. So, if you want to check the bibliography for the study, the links can be found in the description on the video. And last but not least, if you actually enjoyed the video, I'm planning to translate my other research works. So, subscribe to get notified of the upload. And really, thank you so much, and I hope I give you new information about the history of Italian pharmacy. And so, bye, and see you to the next video. Thank you.